The invisible arteries of empire, decoding the great roads of Kronstadt through the lens of Ivan Aivazovsky. Ivan Aivazovsky, the undisputed master of the marine canvas, is celebrated for his breathtaking depictions of the sea in all its tumultuous glory and serene majesty. From sun-drenched, tranquil bays to ship-shattering tempests, his brush captured the very soul of the ocean, earning him international renown and the patronage of emperors. His extensive body of works is an epic poem written in oil, chronicling the restless spirit of water, the fragile ambition of man, and the boundless sweep of the horizon. Yet to propose an exploration of the great roads at Kronstadt by Ivan Aivazovsky immediately presents a fascinating paradox. Aivazovsky painted seascapes, not landscapes. His roads were not paved thoroughfares leading through terrestrial valleys but the invisible currents, the strategic sea lanes, and the very expanse of the oceans themselves. And Kronstadt is not a city famed for its grand boulevards, but for its impregnable maritime fortifications, its role as the bastion of the Russian Baltic Fleet, and its unique position safeguarding the approaches to St. Petersburg. This seemingly anachronistic prompt, however, offers a rare opportunity to delve beyond the literal and explore the profound multi-layered meaning of roads within Aivazovsky's artistic universe, particularly in relation to a place as strategically vital and symbolically potent as Kronstadt. To understand the great roads here, we must redefine them, not as physical pathways, but as vital arteries of naval power, strategic maritime spaces, and the very currents of history and empire that converged upon this island fortress. 1. Aivazovsky's Oceanic Highways. The sea as an infinite road. At the heart of Aivazovsky's genius was his perception of the sea not as a static backdrop, but as a dynamic, living entity. To him, the ocean possessed its own geography, its own topography, and its own roads. These were the ancient shipping lanes that crisscrossed the globe, the trade routes that fueled empires, and the strategic passages through which naval power projected its might. When he painted a ship at sea, he wasn't just depicting a vessel, he was capturing a moment on an invisible highway, a journey along a maritime road. His canvases are replete with a sense of motion, direction, and objective. Whether it's a lone brig battling mountainous waves or a fleet sailing majestically under a clear sky, there is always an implied destination, a path being forged or followed. The light guiding a ship through a storm, the distant coastline beckoning, the very wake left behind, all testify to the existence of these roads of the sea. They are the paths of exploration, conquest, commerce, and indeed, survival. Aivazovsky's technical prowess allowed him to imbue these invisible roads with palpable presence. His ethereal light effects, his masterful rendering of water's translucence and reflection, and his dramatic skies all worked in concert to define the immense, navigable spaces of the ocean. The viewer feels the vastness, the journey, the endless stretch of water that to a mariner is as much a mapped route as any land road. For the Russian Empire, whose expansion was inextricably linked to its naval power, these oceanic roads were not merely theoretical concepts but vital arteries of a burgeoning global presence. 2. Kronstadt. The grand roadstead of imperial ambition, the sea itself provided Aivazovsky's with his boundless roads, then Kronstadt represented a critical nexus, a vital intersection on these grand maritime pathways. Founded by Peter the Great in 1704, Kronstadt was strategically located on Kotlin Island in the Gulf of Finland, guarding the approaches to St. Petersburg, the new capital of the Russian Empire. It was conceived as an impregnable fortress, a naval base, and a bustling port, a formidable gateway where the roads of the Baltic Sea converged. The true Great Road of Kronstadt, in the nautical sense, is its magnificent roadstead. A roadstead, or roads in plural, is a semi-protected anchorage, a designated area where ships can safely lie at anchor while waiting for tides, orders, or repairs, or simply to take on provisions. Kronstadt's roadstead was legendary, vast, deep, and protected by a ring of powerful forts and the island itself. It was here that the might of the Imperial Russian Navy gathered, a majestic display of naval power under the watchful eye of Aivazovsky's potential brush. Imagine Aivazovsky, not just painting the open sea, but focusing on this concentrated hub of maritime activity. He would have captured the sheer density of masts and rigging, the geometric precision of anchored warships, their hulls reflected in the calm or rippling waters. The light, his signature element, would play across the white sails unfurled, the dark timber of the ships, and the brass gleam of their cannons. He would evoke the sense of latent power, of vigilance, and of the unceasing rhythm of a naval base. The painting of the Kronstadt roadstead by Aivazovsky would not just be a depiction of ships, it would be a portrait of imperial ambition. The roadstead was where admirals conferred, where new recruits faced the sprawling reality of a naval career, where goods from distant lands were offloaded, and where, most crucially, the great ships of the line prepared for their voyages or stood ready to defend the capital. It was a space teeming with narratives, a convergence point for the human drama of a naval empire. The roads here are both the Kronstadt literal channels for ingress and egress, and the metaphorical paths of national destiny intersecting at this strategic point. 3. The fortifications, guarding the naval thoroughfares. Kronstadt's prominence as a vital maritime junction was intrinsically linked to its formidable fortifications. These were not obstacles to the roads, but rather guardians of them. Aivazovsky, while primarily a painter of the open sea, understood the interplay between land, sea, and human endeavor. His works often feature distant coastlines, lighthouses, or the silhouettes of coastal towns, proving his awareness of the land's role in the maritime narrative. The ring of forts surrounding Kotlin Island and extending into the Gulf of Finland, such as Forts Constantine, Alexander, and Peter, were designed to create an impregnable barrier, denying hostile navies access to St. Petersburg. These forts, bristling with artillery, were the sentinels of the sea roads leading to the capital. Aivazovsky, with his unparalleled ability to render atmospheric conditions and the sheer scale of the environment, could have painted these fortifications not as static structures, but as active participants in the drama of the sea. Imagine a painting where the dramatic sweep of a storm-laden sky is mirrored by the imposing silhouette of a fort, its cannons barely visible, yet palpable in their protective intent. The waves crashing against their stone walls, the spray rising in an almost painterly mist, these would be quintessential Aivazovsky elements. Such a scene would emphasize that the roads into Kronstadt were controlled, managed, and fiercely defended. They were not open invitations but carefully guarded passages. The forts were milestones on these maritime avenues, signposts of imperial power, and stark reminders that the strategic roads of the sea were not universally accessible, but belonged to those strong enough to claim and defend them. Within the island's confines, a network of literal land roads existed, connecting barracks, arsenals, dockyards, administrative buildings, and the living quarters of its inhabitants. These seemingly mundane roads, though unlikely to be primary subjects for Aivazovsky, were the crucial supporting arteries of the great maritime heart. These land-based roads facilitated the movement of men, material, and ideas essential to the functioning of the naval base. Cannons arrived from foundries, supplies were carted to ships, sailors marched to their vessels, and officers hurried to strategic meetings. Workshops hummed with activity, producing everything from sails to intricate navigational instruments, all transported along these terrestrial pathways. Although Aivazovsky rarely focused on urban landscapes, he often included human activity that contextualized his grand seascapes. One can imagine a hypothetical Aivazovsky painting where a narrow road in Kronstadt leads the eye towards a glimpse of the harbor, perhaps a distant ship being fitted out, or the towering masts of a vessel undergoing repairs. The road would be bustling with anonymous figures, their purpose clearly linked to the naval industry. A group of sailors on shore leave, a cart loaded with provisions, a sentry patrolling his beat. In such a depiction, the roads themselves would not be the heroes of the canvas but the veins and capillaries that nourish the marine leviathan. They would provide a sense of grounded reality, a tangible link between the human effort on land and the majestic power displayed on the water. They would be the conduits for the daily grind that underpinned the grand narratives of naval prowess that Aivazovsky so eloquently captured. Beyond the literal and nautical interpretations, the concept of roads at Kronstadt, as viewed by Aivazovsky, can be extended to the metaphorical. Kronstadt itself represented a significant turn on Russia's imperial road, a departure from its landlocked past towards a future as a major maritime power. Peter the Great's decision to build St. Petersburg and Kronstadt was a conscious stride along a new road of national development, one that looked westward and seaward. Aivazovsky, as a celebrated court painter and a fervent patriot, understood and glorified this national trajectory. His paintings of naval reviews, victorious battles, and exploration voyages are not merely artistic renderings, they are visual declarations of Russia's progress along the road to naval supremacy. Kronstadt, as the operational heart of the Baltic Fleet, was a symbol of this journey. The great roads here therefore become the road of technological advancement in shipbuilding, the road of strategic foresight in defending the capital, and the road of national identity forged through maritime power. Aivazovsky's luminous skies over Kronstadt would not just depict weather, they would reflect the dawning of a new era for Russia. The ships anchored in the roadstead would not just be vessels, they would be symbols of a nation actively pursuing its destiny along a deliberately chosen path. His genius lay in his ability to imbue his subjects with this deeper meaning. A ship under sail was not just a means of transport, it was a testament to human ingenuity and courage, forging a path across the boundless ocean, a representation of human progress along a boundless road. Kronstadt, in turn, became the staging ground for these grand journeys, the starting point and terminus of countless expeditions that contributed to Russia's burgeoning global influence. 6. Aivazovsky's legacy, illuminating the unseen roads. In conclusion, the proposition of the great roads at Kronstadt by Ivan Aivazovsky serves as a captivating intellectual exercise urging us to look beyond the obvious and consider the multifaceted nature of artistic interpretation and strategic geography. While Aivazovsky never painted a literal street in Kronstadt, his entire body of work, particularly his masterpieces depicting naval might and the vastness of the sea, provides the perfect lens through which to understand the profound significance of roads in this unique location. The great roads of Kronstadt, as understood through Aivazovsky's genius, are primarily the Kronstadt roadstead itself, a magnificent, strategic expanse of water where the vessels of the Russian Baltic Fleet gathered. These are complemented by the invisible sea lanes that converged upon this vital hub, the ancient highways of ocean commerce and military projection that dictated Russia's global aspirations. Even the land-based arteries within the fortress, though not his typical subject, serve as crucial supporting elements, illustrating the intricate, interconnected systems that fueled the naval might that Aivazovsky so admired. Finally, metaphorically, these roads represent the very path of Russia's imperial journey towards becoming a preeminent maritime nation. Aivazovsky's ability to capture the soul of the sea, its boundless energy, and its dramatic narratives, allows us to imagine how he would have illuminated these concepts. His signature light, his dynamic skies, and his precise rendering of water would transform the strategic location of Kronstadt into a living tableau, where the roads were not just lines on a map but expressions of national will, historical progress, and the enduring human ambition to master the elements. He would have shown us that even in a world defined by water, there are always pathways, currents, and strategic intersections. Great roads, indeed, waiting to be navigated, defended, and immortalized on canvas.